There's metal, and then there's Metallica. Having sold nearly 100 million records in their career, this is what still greets them nearly 3 decades on wherever they perform. They've famously lived fast and hard, but are now 40-something millionaires with families. So what is the enduring appeal of Metallica, not just to their fans, but to the band themselves?
This is a fucking song where everyone gets like fucking hella together and gets as loud as they fucking want to. All right! This one goes something like Seek and Destroy.
It's summer in Bergen, Norway. Among the cruise ships and the trolls, Metallica are in town to begin the second leg of a European tour. 20,000 tickets sold out here in less than 45 minutes. Such is Metallica's drawing power. Nothing, it seems, quickens the pulse like the prospect of a good thrash.
OK, it's confession time. Back in the mid-1980s, when I was a teenager, I was really into thrash metal. And the faster and the angrier, the better. Leading the field at the time were Metallica. And amazingly, nearly 30 years later, they're still going strong. Now, I've grown up a lot in that time. The question is, have they?
The thrash metal scene thrived in America and Europe in the 1980s. Metallica were never the fastest. Bands like Slayer and Megadeth tussled over that accolade. But no one had Metallica's attitude or intensity. For many, their sound represented then, and still remains today, thrash at its most thrilling. Fast forward to 2008, and excitement among Metallica fans is cranked up to 11 as a new album, their first in 5 years, is due. The previous album, St. Anger, received a mixed response as the guitar solos were junked for a more uncompromising, raw sound. So anticipation is high for the new record, with rumours circulating of a return once more to their older sound. Getting details from the band themselves, though, is notoriously difficult.
Ask me about tomorrow, not yesterday. No worries.
So there's been a lot of secrecy about the new album.
What album?
Go on, what can you tell us?
It's called Death Magnetic. It's got 14 songs on it. No, it's got 11. I don't even know. There's things I don't even know about it yet.
There are rumours. There's always rumours. But some of the rumours are that the thrash riffs are back, the guitar solos are back. Can you...
confirm or deny?
Yeah.
I would say what was planted in our minds was the freshness and the hunger of the first 3 albums. We want to get to the essence of Metallica. How about we forget about everything that you've done so far and pretend you're trying to get signed. You're trying to impress.
The recording of their previous album, St. Anger, had been a fraught and drawn-out affair, and the world knew it as the band's tensions were captured on camera for the documentary film Some Kind of Monster, released in 2003. Ironically, though, it won them a whole new audience, who were enthralled by its graphic portrayal of a band in meltdown.
I don't want to pick a fight.
This is so silly. You're just sitting there going, I'm in a really pissy mood, and
I fucking told you straight up that I was.
Right.
And what are you trying to do?
I'm not trying to do fucking shit. You're just sitting there being a complete dick.
You're really helping matters. You're really good at that. I was straight up with you, and I told you I'm in a shit mood, and what have you been doing? Fucking picking at me all night.
Come on, guys. We got better things to do. Right?
Yeah, I do. I do.
In retrospect, was Some Kind of Monster a good idea to document the band like that?
Yeah. To us, that access has always been one of the primary things that we've tried to protect. And to me, Some Kind of Monster was the ultimate in that access. If you want it, come on in. Here it is, warts and all, as you say. And then, you know, come along for the ride, but don't give me any shit if you can't handle it. Because here it is uncensored, and there was nothing censored about that. Do you know what I mean? And we made a decision to, if we're gonna do this, then we can't sit there and self-censor. You gotta either go for it or not do it at all. So we went for it, and I'm very, very proud of that. See? Fuck. Fuck! Fuck!
Has there ever been a point where you thought, actually, I might have to walk away from this?
Yeah, there's been a lot of those points. And it wasn't really a vocal threat, you know, like, I want a divorce, you know, once the D word comes up, do you ever recover from that, you know? It never came up till the Saint Anger, you know. Well, if you're not happy doing this, I'm perfectly fine walking away from the, you know, the drama of it all, you know.
Has the making of this album been easier?
There's less pain to document, I'd say, on this one. There's less blood, less, you know, less yelling, less door slamming, you know. A lot more, hey, that sounds great, but how about if we try this? Okay.
In the studio for the new record, Metallica decided for the first time in nearly 20 years to work with a new producer. In recent years, the legendary Rick Rubin has been acclaimed for helping revive the career of Johnny Cash. But prior to that, he's most famous as co-founder of the seminal hip-hop label Def Jam Records, home to the likes of Public Enemy and Run DMC. Rubin's challenge now was to breathe new life into the Metallica sound.
What's he like to work with? I mean, what is actually the working method that he put you through?
I've been trying to figure that out for the better part of the last 2 years. I'm not sure I have the answer. And maybe he does that on purpose. There is a method to the madness, but I think he's the only one that knows what it is.
A lot more album scratching and rap on this one.
Is there?
No.
Because he's got a bit of a thing about that, hasn't he?
He does
Fusing
have a thing
rap
about
and
that.
heavy metal.
Well, he's done a lot of different styles of music. So it's not luck that he's gotten to where he is.
Rick has a very Zen-like approach to making records, and it's all about the vibe, and it's all about the right moment. It's like, you know, what was his name, Neil from The Young Ones? Like that kind of vibe, right? You know, it's about just, you know, not fucking it up.
He is the show up when I'm needed, you know, tell me when your songs are done. You know, okay, here's the songs you got, that's good, that's not as good, here's, make more of this. I'll see you in a few months. Okay. Whew.
The evening before the concert, band rehearsals are meant to start at 8 p.m. Finally, in the early hours, the band show up. To hear the Metallica sound in such an intimate space, you get a real sense of how tight they are as a band. Yet, over the years, James and Lars, while remaining at the heart of everything Metallica do, have famously shared what might be best described as a love-hate relationship.
You are best friends, but there's a lot of friction in your sort of working relationship,
Definitely.
isn't there? And because it seems that you had real demons to exercise, whereas Lars, very nice middle-class upbringing, really.
I'll show you his demons, but
Okay.
You know, my dad was a professional tennis player. There was jazz music and art around, and there were very few rules and very, you know, it was very liberal.
You became reconciled with your father, didn't you, late in life? Because he left your family, didn't he, when you were a teenager?
yeah, that was one of the first major blows that I can remember. as a kid. At 13 years old, my father leaving, and without saying goodbye, without anything. He left a note, and that was extremely difficult. First of all, I think I was fearful that I had to stand up and be the man of the house, and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't want to do it. I hadn't been taught enough on how to be a man, you know, so there was always that blame, always that scapegoat. I'm not going to try that because I don't know how, you know. I'm being afraid to try things, you know, and didn't have the go for it, you know, the thing that I've got tattooed here now, dare to fail, you know. I have to remind myself, it's okay to fuck up. It's okay.
You ask me what our relationship is, I mean, he's like the brother I never had. He's like the wife I should have stayed married to. I mean, it's 27 years, you know what I mean? Most relationships don't last a tenth of that. Most bands don't last a tenth of that, you know? So it's obviously, you know, we can fin each other's sentences. I know by his body language what he's thinking before he even says hello. Do you know what I mean? It's totally cool.
He'll say something and I'll just go, okay, that's Lars at 8 years old, and he's talking like that because he's afraid of something, and not really take offense at it, and, you know, a lot of real normal life learning that I guess we weren't privy to being in a young band, just kicked out on the road and learn how to survive, you know.
This one is gonna kill all the fake people out there, all the posers. This is called No Remorse.
Going right back to even before you formed Metallica, what was it that drew you to heavy metal? Why did you love the music so much?
You know, I went to a Deep Purple concert in 1973 when I was 9 years old, and my dad took me, and Richie Blackmore was up on stage throwing his guitar around and playing it like with his foot or whatever he was doing, and it all seemed so right for some reason. It was very loud, and there was a lot of people that were getting off on this kind of shared experience between the band and the audience, and there was something that just kind of sucked you in, and I've been kind of addicted to it ever since I was 9 years old.
Who are your favorite artists or your main influences? Let's start with you.
Oh, I don't know. There's all kinds of shit. I can't even start to think about it.
Angel Witch, Faye, Venom, Motorhead.
Were the punk bands ever an influence? I mean, maybe not musically, but in attitude.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in attitude. Yeah, I mean, the Ramones, obviously, the Sex Pistols, you know, some of the harder English bands like GBH or Discharge that came a little bit later, that came in the early 80s. Musically, Discharge and GBH were actually musical influences, but I think that the attitudes of some of the bands like the Anti-Nowhere League and so on, which was, you know, the big that's just always been. And also, you have to, if you're really gonna thread this stuff together, bands like Iron Maiden and so on were much more influenced by the punk movement in terms of the attitudes than, you know, and most of the new wave of British heavy metal was kind of the harder rock answer to the punk movement, which was anti-Genesis and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Queen and all the larger-than-life prog rock stuff and the spectacle and all that. So the new wave of British metal and Motorhead and so on were really just the harder versions of what all the punk bands were in, you know, 76 to 78. We weren't Led Zeppelin. We didn't want to be Led Zeppelin. We didn't want to be Kiss. We didn't want to be these larger-than-life bands. You know, we wanted to be firmly on the ground. And it was LA. It was 1981. We were starting off, and everything that was going on the local club scene at the time were bands like Motley Crue and Rat and that type of stuff. It represented the antithesis of what we were, was the complete just opposite of what got us off. And I think that in some way, the only way we could find a way to have a voice in any of that was just to do something that was so opposite of that, the big fuck you to all of it, and that sort of came through speeding it up and heavying it up and not showering for extended periods of time.
Metallica quickly established themselves as the leading practitioners of the thrash sound, as much through their live shows as their records. But then, in 1986, with the band on the brink of greatness, disaster struck.
There was also tragedy in rock this week. Metallica's bassist Cliff Burton was killed in a bus accident while the band was on tour in Sweden. He was 24.
For a band as intense as Metallica, the death of Cliff Burton felt like losing a family member. Their response, though, came more in anger than sorrow, as new bassist Jason Newsted was to discover.
Were you all still slightly in shock, do you think, and sort of taking it out on the new bass player? Because, I mean, that was an amazingly difficult role for somebody to step into.
Yeah. There's no doubt that there was a lot of hazing and there was a lot of grief that turned into spite towards Jason. That is pretty human, I would say. So again, when Cliff passed, you know, it was stuff the feelings, and a lot of it came from drinking, for sure. And the other part was just go play. That's our other drug. It really is. You know, the world goes away when we play. There can be no bad. It just feels good. We're connected. It goes away.
In Some Kind of Monster, we see the band in search of yet another bassist, this time to replace Jason. Eventually, they discover Rob Trujillo, a man born to the role.
It feels like he's been in the band for quite a long time. He's already contributed, and this is no disrespect to Jason, but he's already contributed more on this record than Jason did in 14 years. A lot of it did have to do with our willingness, for sure, but also the material. Robert, personality-wise, plugs directly in.
With you and Lars, there isn't really room for another ego.
You can put that out there. When you're building the ultimate boy band, before you look at talent, look at personality, you know. Before you look at hair color, you know, we need red hair, blonde, a brunette, brown, black, you know, okay. You gotta look at personality, you know. Rob and Kirk, their contribution is being happy sitting in the back seat. And Lars and I will fight over the steering wheel. And that's how that goes.
Is Metallica, the band now, bigger than any individual, or certainly bigger than you or James?
I would hope that the band is bigger than any of the individuals, because that's what it certainly feels like to us. And we've never been particularly, I mean, nobody's running around doing, you know, side projects or solo records or any of that crap, you know.
Metallica can never be accused of resting on their laurels, whether it's by making more radio-friendly albums in the 1990s or their unlikely collaboration with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra in 1999. A desire to mix things up is partly what sustains them as a creative force.
We're driven, this band is driven to be the best it can be and always want to be the first, want to be, we're going to play there first. Iron Maiden beat us, you know. All right, next time we're going to do this. You know, we always want to be adventurous that way.
You're also talking to the one hard rock band that has, you know, certainly pissed off a lot of the hard rock purists over the years by all the different paths we've taken. So, you know, even though we have a very, very loyal hard rock following and are, I guess, somewhat revered, there's also a lot of people that think we're sellouts, and, you know, we cut our hair and we have acoustic guitars on our records, and, you know, there's that element also. So compared to the guys that really play hard, I mean, we sound like, you know, take that compared to the... primary motive here was, you know, not anything other than rejuvenating ourselves and keeping it fresh and exciting for ourselves. So all the other stuff, that's a byproduct of the fact of simply wanting to stay, you know, relevant, coherent, interested. You know, it's kept it fresh, and I think that it's certainly a big reason that, you know, 27 years later, I'm standing here and you're actually interested in what I have to say.
How things have changed.
What's there to say? Yeah. We're out of beer, pal.
For long periods in the past, Metallica did everything to excess, and for their efforts were dubbed Alcoholica.
Hey man, I don't know about you, but it's like summertime, and to me it's fucking beer drinking weather, yeah?
It took until the recording of St. Anger for James to own up to his battle with his drinking habits and enter rehab.
I just want to say cheers.
And are you still on the wagon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make it more or less difficult when you go out on stage?
I'd say during Kill 'Em All, there were times where, what? We're on in 20 minutes? Where's the bottle? You know, I gotta get ready. You know, that was my warm-up. And then around, you know, Lightning, it started to, you know what, I don't need this. And I wasn't drunk on stage. There might be times when I ended up that way during a 3-hour show, you know, but it wasn't cool to go on drunk. It was all the other times, you know, that kind of screwed it up. And, you know, having alcohol in your system for so many years, you're fuzzy. You're living life fuzzy, you know?
Does the music do it for you, you know, without the beer kind of thing?
Oh, definitely. As soon as the intro tape goes, it's on. It's really on. The hair stands up, the drug takes effect. And to hear the intro tape that we've had for, you know, since the 80s, walk out there and see the people loving you just because you're there. It's a great feeling.
The hour of reckoning approaches in Bergen, and for the hardcore Norwegian fans, it can't come soon enough.
It's getting very near showtime now, but last night the band were up until 5 in the morning rehearsing. So although they are growing up in a lot of ways, it is all still clearly very rock and roll. You are mid-40s now, aren't you? Is there ever a day when you think, actually, maybe I am a bit old for this?
I don't know. I sort of hover back and forth between, you know, the 14-year-old that I really am and a 45-year-old's body, and you know, I don't know.
Having limbered up watching the support band, Lars takes a few minutes to press the flesh with lucky fan club members.
All right then.
Ready?
With quarter of an hour before they're due on stage, the band retreat to a space they call the tuning room to psych themselves up.
Our massive, wonderful, large rehearsal quarters. Hey Foster, you know where Lars is? Is he in the building? Gone in here?
Even at this late stage, the band are still finalising what to play.
Where's the list of songs? Can I see a list of songs?
The song under discussion is the old budgie classic Bread Fan.
Why don't we just play it? Bradford! I don't need to set it up. I don't think we need to set it up. Here's something we don't normally do. Wanna play it?
It might be the world's biggest hard rock band jamming in the world's smallest room, but it's clearly four men still in thrall to making music, and perhaps finally more or less at ease with each other and themselves.
You know, I'd say between Saint Anger and Death Magnetic, there's a lot of growing up we had done from a, standoffish, attitude to, wow, we're all in this together, man, and let's hug and come on, let's meditate over this riff, to somewhere in the middle.
Well, I don't think we're quite as manic about the band as we used to be, and we're not as wound up about it. So it's probably a little bit, family Metallica. It used to be Metallica family, and now it's everybody. I think it sits a little more like this, and it's just a little easier because it's like I don't need to put on a suit of armor every time I go down to the studio to battle James Hetfield on, the third chorus. It's like, ooh, it's just not worth it anymore. Metallica, and I don't mean this in any way disrespectful to the family thing, but it's like the Metallica is the fun part. When I go on tour, I sleep more than I do at home. I go on tour to catch up on my sleep.
When music hits you at a certain time in your life, you can't erase that. Certain songs that I hear, I'm taken back to a certain time. And it's magic.
But you still want to write angry music?
There is something about the music that moves me in a way no other music does.
Are you having fun so far? It's great to see you, my friends!
There's something rather poignant about meeting the musicians who wrote the soundtrack to your formative years, especially now they're semi-respectable 40-somethings who look after themselves and have families to support. But when they hit the stage, all respectability is forgotten for a few hours, by them and by me.
Who cares about growing up anyway?
Sometimes you've just got to rock.